powder our faces.
You didn't see the powder guy when you walked
Damn
in?
it. Hope you're not painted by the hour.
Clap for the camera.
Boom.
Sync. Also, it looks cool. Chit chat with Pillow Cat.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, Christina.
I hate to tell you this.
What?
I'm allergic to cats.
Damn it. Here, let's do this.
Don't look at me, kitty.
You stay over on
I
this
start
side.
itching as soon as I see a cat.
If you sneeze, we'll stop and get rid of him.
Okay. I'm glad you have these sneeze protectors on your microphones. That's what these are, right?
They're sneeze protectors,
Yeah.
phlegm protectors, everything else.
Very cool.
You know. Thank you
got
for
it all here.
We have a lot here.
You do.
We have a camera. We have 2 microphones. We have a couch.
You got a turntable.
And we have a turntable over there. And we have a hypoallergenic cat. That's a pillow.
Okay. My right eye's a little twitchy. Sorry, kitty.
Come here, Pillow Cat.
I'm a dog person.
Oh, we know.
Okay.
We know. I think the entire social media network is aware of that. Thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you because you are a friend, musician, colleague of mine. We work together on Music Beds for Discovery, and we are in the beginnings of an EP that we're putting together. We make music a lot together, and I thought to myself, I'm going to ask as many of my smart, creative friends as I possibly can a lot of questions about themselves to see if we can help other people who want to do this.
We love talking about ourselves.
Pro of being friends with creatives.
Yes.
They always want to talk.
Wait, you want to talk about me? Me? Okay.
So let's start. You have a word that you love. Let's start with that.
Oh, my word of the day. It's actually been the word of the year, and my Pellissippi students know it because I always write it on the board whenever I come into class, and it's autodidactic.
Which means?
To be self-taught.
Okay. Let's break that down a little bit. Why do you write that on the board?
I write that on the board because I teach lessons privately in my home, and then I also teach at Pellissippi, and I see these students really once or twice a week, and it's for a very limited time, and there's so much to learn in music production and in music in general that limited time that I have with them is really just a gateway drug into the wild ocean that's out there. And there's so many resources and there's so many materials that you can find on your own. And I think of myself as a guide that just sort of opens the door for students. And I kind of point to other hallways they could go down. And I try to guide them as much as possible, but I can't do the work for them.
Right.
And so what I really want to instill in people that are in music production or in any creative field is you have to teach yourself. It's great to have a teacher. It's great to have a leader and a guide, but you've got to do the work yourself.
Yeah, the teacher's not going to do it for you.
No.
And like we mentioned while we were setting up, you're not hurting the teacher's feelings, right?
No.
You're hurting yourself.
No.
If you're not putting the work in, everyone else around you is. Right? Even if they're not in the same class as you, someone out there in the industry is putting the work in.
Yeah.
And that's a job you're not going to get.
Well, ironically, I'm a teacher and I'm not trying to talk anybody out of going and getting lessons or going and getting a degree. I highly suggest you do it. It's how I got to where I am, but I wouldn't have gotten as far as I've gotten if I hadn't taught myself along the way.
Right.
There was no class for Ableton Live, which is this DAW that I have been using almost exclusively for 10 years. When it came out, there was literally one book that came with the software, and it was the reference manual, and that was it. I had to read the reference manual to get started in version 1.
What version of Live are you talking about?
The very first one. Yeah, the very first one.
Lord.
So I watched things change and turn, and in the industry, and even with like the internet, because YouTube was barely a thing, right? And people weren't putting up these really well-made tutorials, and there were no forums, and there were no user groups, and there were no meetups, and there were no electronic music production schools.
Right.
There was none of that. All I had was my previous experience working with Cakewalk and Sonar in my basement when I was a kid, to get me started. And so I had to push through, and I had to figure it out.
Would you be where you are now having gone a different path if you'd had somebody like guiding you and holding your hand through Ableton?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, because along the way you have to solve so many problems, and if you can become a problem solver, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Especially with music production.
I forget who, it's like the CEO of Best Buy or something, said like he would rather hire 10 problem solvers that knew nothing about their products than 15, 20 people that knew about the products but didn't care, right? For the exact same reason. If you have somebody who you can't keep away from something, like they're crazy interested in guitar, they're going to learn guitar, even to spite somebody saying don't learn it, that person's going to succeed no matter what.
Absolutely.
They might succeed faster if they have the right teacher, but they're still going to get where they're going.
And a good teacher can curate and filter information. There's a lot of it out there now. So my job is to decide what's the important chronology of learning this information and to set up basically a foundation. And like, this is where you start and this is where you go. And I can tell you that from my 20 years of experience doing it. That can quicken your pace, right? That's what a good teacher can do, or a good program can do. But again, you're just going to fall flat on your face if you're not spending the time in between digging in and experimenting. And, you know, that's where I see the lack of, I can always tell the students that I work with are the ones that are there before class starts. They're coming in and they're working on the weekdays we don't have class, and they bought the software. They at least downloaded the trial and they're working on it at home on the weekends. Right. Those are the ones that are ultimately going to be successful because they're learning through doing. And the ones that just show up and work for an hour and a half twice a week because it's required, they're like, this is hard. God. I'm not getting anywhere. Of course you're not getting anywhere.
You're not. And we use it every day. We use you use Ableton constantly. I use Ableton, I use Logic as well. And like, if you're not on top of it every week, those hotkeys disappear. Like, I'll forget. Like, what's consolidate again? Alt J? No, that's not it. It's this. It's maybe try 6 other things. Like, having that refreshment in your head constantly and that constant familiarity with it keeps you at the top of your game.
Same with the music part of it, right? If you're producing a song, when you're making creative decisions in a piece of music, you start to build a tool set, right? And you can either keep falling back on that same tool set, like, this is how I always do my bridge, and
this is my blues solo.
This is how I always record my drum kit, right? You're going to fall back on that over and over again. So if you're not practicing every day, you're going to get pretty stale and you're not going to improve anyway. So it's the same for the music part of it too.
Let me ask you what you think about this. So the deeper I get into production and the deeper I get into music, the deeper I get into songwriting, the more vulnerable and the harder it seems because I learn more about it. Do you ever feel that, like, the frustration of when you first learn something, like just getting by in Ableton was a success? Like, I know how to do this now. I know the difference between arrangement view and session view. I understand how MIDI works. I'm making these like steps forward. As you get into 15, 20 years of doing it, I run into things that simple things are easier, but the overall tasks and the overall like creative process seems to get harder because I'm learning more about it.
You're more sensitive.
You think that's
right?
it?
Yeah, I think it's that feeling if you've ever written a song or produced a track and you love it and you think, I'll never do anything as good as this again. And then you try to top that, right? As you move on. And then also your ears become more sensitive. And I can look back at something I did 10 years ago and honestly say that was crap, you know, or it was what it was for the time being, but it was novice and it was amateur. And now I can hear things that I couldn't hear before, right? So that's the part that makes it more difficult because I can hear the mistakes, hear the details in a way that, you know, if I just got an idea down, if I got a loop down, I thought it was awesome, you know, at the get-go. And now it's like there's so many more elements to that make music interesting or make creative content interesting. And to keep my own interest is more difficult, right?
That's maybe what it is for me.
Yeah. And then you have to taper that with, you know, not making things so complicated that other people aren't going to enjoy it. So it's balancing that attention to detail and that growth. Yeah, it definitely makes things harder.
What advice would you give a young version of yourself just cracking into Ableton for the first time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Someone who's just got Ableton 10, like a version of you that you see in class, who's hungry for the software, they're hungry to learn. What advice do you give them? I see
a lot of that, right? My scarf looks silly. I see a lot of young people that are hungry to learn. But they're so hungry to learn and they're so enthralled with the software that they forget to step back and think about the music. So they don't have a vision, right? And so if I could step back and tell the younger version of myself, Christina, what are you trying to say? And what does it sound like? Right. Before I actually started, I probably would have not made 3 terrible records. You know what I mean? Like, and I see that too with they get so excited that they made a track, right? They've got 3 minutes of some repetitive loop and they're just so excited that they made a track, but they didn't ever stop and think, what style of music am I trying to make? What's my message? You know, what's the vision that I'm going for?
What's
in
the
the end?
out the window?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I still do that. I think that one of the greatest things about working with you on this discovery project has been that it's very specific. It's here's a topic, here's a genre, here's the yeses and the nos that you can and can't do. And I think we've written some of the best songs probably of either one of our careers just because of those boundaries and
having
parameters.
A grid to work from is the greatest gift you can give somebody, especially as a creative.
And you don't give it to yourself.
No.
I'm an artist.
Yeah,
I'm going to make the most amazing music.
Yep.
Nobody's ever heard anything like it, you know.
I used to tell myself, because I think we've worked together long enough now that you can see each other's kind of quirks and things that they're into, right? Like, I love the art of the production much more than I do the song structure, which bites me in the ass all the time. And I always have to remind myself, like, a tool is not a song. Like, oh, I learned how to sidechain. That doesn't mean you made a song.
Right.
That means you learned a technique. And that technique can be applied to a great song. But that great song exists on its own. Not just because you learned a new thing. Or, I mean, I've heard people say, like, oh, you bought a new guitar pedal, so now every song you write has that guitar pedal.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that can be translated to the music we choose to listen to, right? Your education is the music that you choose to listen to and how you choose to listen to it.
Yeah.
And younger version of myself only liked a particular style of music.
What was that style?
Oh my God, I don't even remember. It was like, I mean, it was like Tori Amos, you know, whatever. It was just like, I liked a particular style of music. And then it was like, I'm going to write chamber pop. And then it was like, I only like Swedish pop music. And I think once I started to see the beauty in all different styles of music and at least open my mind to different ideas, I think that's when I really grew.
Sure.
Even from a production standpoint.
It's funny, as I get older, I understand every genre much more than I ever did before. And you also stop hating things.
Yeah, there's no need to hate.
There's no need to hate it. You understand the reason for it. And whether or not you like it is one thing. But knowing the applicable reason for the thing as a producer is really helpful.
And that's good. That's being autodidactic.
Yeah.
I mean, listening to music that you wouldn't normally try to listen to, that's you teaching yourself how to listen.
And 9 times out of 10, if you learn something, you're going to at least enjoy some of it, right? If you learn about hip hop, chances are you're going to start digging a little bit of hip hop.
Probably.
If you learn about like heavy metal drum production or something, you're going to learn something from that. Whether or not you incorporate it or not, it's helpful to have that as a creative.
Do you think that you have to have a hunger to learn? Is that part of this?
I think you can't truly be in this industry without it.
Okay.
Because nobody needs another producer. Nobody needs another band. Nobody needs another song.
There's a lot of music out there.
And if you're not cutting through, what are you doing?
True.
You're going to be under miles and miles of amateur musicians. The people that actually care and the people that are going to be hungry every single day are the ones that are going to be successful. Yep. In my opinion. That's why I love talking about this with you, because you see it on people almost immediately.
You do. I had a student in class a couple weeks ago just throw his hands up in the air and say, "This is too hard." And my reply to that was, if that's how you feel about it, then you're in the wrong place. Yeah. Because yes, it is very hard. And that's what motivates me to move forward is that, yes, this is hard. I get a kick out of solving problems, whether it's a technical issue with a computer that's not functioning correctly, or if it's a DAW issue, or if it's a song structure issue. I like solving problems. Those little things just get me through my day. Right. And I feel a lot better.
Same.
But I guess not everybody has that. So maybe you have to ask yourself if you have what it takes to push through.
And what's your thing that you're passionate about, right? Like, you don't have to be passionate about miking the piano and playing the piano and writing the song and producing it. Find the thing that you want to do and surround yourself with people to do the rest. I'm starting to learn the value of that.
I've learned so much from you. Speaking of learning.
Ditto.
Oh my gosh. Collaborate with people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find other people that have that hunger and see what you can learn from them. If someone's hungry to learn and they have a knowledge of Ableton and you throw Ableton advice at them, they're going to absorb it like a sponge because they want to. Yep. Because it makes their life better, makes their creativity better. that's the beauty of this industry, is the amount of knowledge out there, which is why I want to do this. Why I want to talk to people like you and get in front of a microphone with people who have something they can teach.
So what are you going to use to remove the chainsaw from this audio recording?
We're going to leave it in.
You're gonna leave it?
We should mic it.
Because I'm going to learn how you're going to get that chainsaw out of this.
Thank you so much for swinging by.
Yeah.
We'll do many, many, many more.
Chit-chats.
Autodidactic.
Autodidactic. Be autodidactic.
Yeah.
You people out there. Boom. Is that 15 minutes?